Today we're going to learn how to make beef Thai salad. Welcome to another episode of Kelvin's Kitchen, where it's all about my favorite foods. Today we're going to do a beef Thai salad. And the reason we're going to do this salad is because one of my favorite restaurants recently took it off the menu. So we're going to duplicate that and see how we do. All right, so protein of choice, we're going to use filet mignon. I like it because it's very lean, it's very tender, and we're trying to make a hearty salad. So filet mignon, which basically what we're going to do is I already diced it up into large chunks. We're going to take, this is about a 5-ounce filet mignon. We're going to cut it into large strips. And from the strips, we're just going to turn it over and cut it into big cubes. The reason we're cutting it into big cubes is because we want this filet mignon to still have some integrity. I think it's important that when we're cooking the filet, the marinade is going to penetrate on flavor and it's going to be still juicy. So that's simple. Now we're going to make the marinade. So the marinade has a lot of different components. We're going to start off with a little bit of brown sugar. We got 3 tablespoons of light brown sugar. We're going to take a microplane, which I think is important. Anytime you see grated, crushed, I use a microplane. It's simple, it's easy, but of course just be careful. We're going to take the garlic clove and grate it right into our bowl. And you can see right there, look at that beautiful pressed garlic. Another one. And if you don't trust yourself, you don't have to go all the way with the garlic. So you can use half of the garlic, grab another one, and you can always use the scraps if you're making any stock, sauces, or soups. And then when you're done grating, just like that, it goes right into your bowl. Next, we have a knob of ginger. I peeled. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to grate a nice amount of ginger. I'm going to say about a tablespoon. So I'll just eyeball that. Because as you can see, the ginger's grating just like the garlic. It's going to keep its intensity and flavor. And this one's a lot easier to grate because you have more to hold. So once you get your tablespoon, you're good to go. I'm going to break this up a little bit. All right, next component for our marinade, we're going to add a 1/4 cup of light sodium soy sauce. Any brand is okay as long as it's light sodium. We're always trying to keep it not as salty. I want to be able to control the amount of salt that we're adding to it. The next component we're adding is fresh squeezed lime juice. We got a 1/4 cup of lime juice in here. Next ingredient, fish sauce. Fish sauce is a little funky, but it adds a lot of flavor. Just don't taste this on its own. That's just 1 tablespoon of fish sauce. We have sesame oil. Sesame oil is not the type of oil that you use for cooking. You're only using a little bit of oil because it's so strong and so fragrant. So we're gonna add a couple drops. I'm gonna say 1/8 teaspoon of sesame oil. We're gonna whisk this all together. I'm gonna add a squirt or 2 of olive oil, vegetable oil, canola oil, anything that doesn't have too much flavor. That was about 1 tablespoon. We're gonna add some kosher salt. Kosher salt is always to taste, which means to your preference, but there's always a fine line between perfectly seasoned, under seasoned, and over seasoned. And if you can master that seasoning, you're a great cook. Got a little bit of fresh ground pepper. And there we have our beautiful marinade for our steak. So what we're gonna do next, we're gonna toss in our steak. You always wanna marinate your steak first because you're gonna give it some time, get into that nice little soy jacuzzi, we call it today. And this nice little marinade, you can smell the fragrant flavors. My mouth is starting to salivate. I haven't had lunch because this is gonna be my lunch. Now the goal is, let this marinate as long as you can. We're gonna do it for about 2 hours. You can leave it in the bowl, plastic wrap it, but I'm gonna throw it in a Ziploc bag. Try to take as much air out as possible. That way, it gets to be in its little marinade. So we're gonna toss that right in. Gonna close the seal on one side. Take as much air as we can out. And now I'm gonna toss this in the fridge, and let's start making the dressing next. Now it's time to make the dressing. You can use a lot of different types of chili paste. You can use chili sambal olek. I like Gouchujang. Gouchujang is a nice fermented Korean paste. It's a little bit spicy, beautiful, dark, rich red color, which I love. And it's gonna give you an opportunity to see different flavor profiles that we're not always used to. So we're gonna start off with a 1/4 cup of the Gouchujang. That's gonna be the base of this dressing. I always like using plastic spatulas to make sure we get every last bit out. And usually there's a nice little trick that I do when there's only a little bit of honey left in your container, or a little bit of, let's say you have a little bit of paste left. Let's just make the whole marinade inside that container. We'll shake it all up. That way you get every little last drop. With the whisk, we're gonna add a 1/4 cup of fresh squeezed lime juice. Anytime we use lemon, lime, orange juice, always use fresh squeeze. I think it's so important, and big difference in flavor profile if you're using something bottled or using something fresh. The fresher the ingredients, the better the dish. All right, so we're just gonna incorporate that. We're gonna add a 1/4 cup of olive oil, since it is a dressing, right? Making a nice little dressing for a salad. We're back with my good friend, Mr. Fish Sauce. We're gonna add 2 tablespoons of fish sauce. This is all coming together nicely. And of course, back to my microplane, we're gonna grate 2 pieces of garlic cloves right into the mix. Look at that. That's about where I stop. I don't want to grate my fingers, you know. I got little sausage fingers. I think I need them. So I'm going to grate that 2nd garlic clove. There we go. And you can see that coming right off. And again, we're going to do ginger. Same amount. We're going to look for about 2 tablespoons of grated ginger. After the ginger, we only got 2 ingredients left. We got to add our sweetness, right? We need to balance this dressing. We're going to add a little bit of honey and 2 tablespoons of brown sugar. That's going to balance out the spiciness of this gochujang. We're almost there. All right, got there. Always grab a little bit more. Boom. We're gonna incorporate the garlic, the ginger. We're adding our 2 tablespoons of brown sugar. And last but not least, we have a tablespoon of honey. Any honey you want is fine. This is just light golden amber honey. And this is gonna add the little bit of sweetness that we're needing with the brown sugar. So this is gonna be a thicker dressing than normal, but it's gonna coat very beautifully. If you have any lumps like that, that's the brown sugar lumps. You can break them up. But there you go. This is our beautiful gochujang dressing for our beef Thai salad. Our next step, we're gonna do our udon noodles. These are ready to go stir-fry noodles. We're gonna turn on our saute pan, add a little bit of olive oil. We're just gonna let that heat up. We're gonna finish it with our sesame oil and a teaspoon of our gochujang sauce. We're basically cooking the udon noodles right now to bring them back to life. We're gonna give them all that love, all that seasoning with the sesame oil and the gochujang sauce. I'm gonna add a couple drops of sesame oil. Just wanna coat it a little bit. And I'm gonna add a tablespoon of our beautiful gochujang dressing. A tablespoon and a half. Now we're just gonna lightly coat. You're gonna smell that sesame oil right away, just like that. Remember, the noodles are already cooked. We just wanna bring them back to life. So we're gonna saute them for about 1.5 minutes, put them back in our container and throw them right in the fridge because we want these to be very cold for our salad. Now it's the fun part. Steak has been marinating. We have all of our beautiful components for the salad. We have some shredded carrots, beautifully diced fresh mango, cherry tomatoes, honey roasted peanuts for some crisp and salt. We have some fresh mint, fresh basil, and bok choy. We're using baby bok choy. We're just gonna use this as our greenery. We're not using any romaine, any mesclun mix. You can eat this raw. It's gonna be incredible, fresh and bright. We're gonna take our steak that was marinating. We're gonna pour out some of that liquid. You can reserve it. You can marinate more steak with that if you choose to. I'm gonna save it for some more steak. And we're gonna pour the steak onto a pan that I've lined up with a little bit of paper towel. I'm gonna turn our pan onto high heat. I'm gonna spread this out a little bit. We're gonna still season the steak with a little bit more salt. The best thing about this is it still has all the flavor of the marinade, but we don't want it to be too wet. If the pan is too hot, you're gonna have oil, then you have wet. Wet and oil don't mix. You're gonna splatter, you're gonna make a mess in the kitchen, you're gonna burn yourself, and I don't wanna be responsible for that. So we're gonna season with authority, right? Anytime you're seasoning your food, you season from above. You can see where the steaks are being seasoned. You can see where the salt is landing. If you season too close to something, let's do it over here, it's only gonna cover where you're adding it. So it's important to season, one, with authority, not saying to over season stuff, but it's also important to season your food properly. So we're gonna turn them over really quick. The pan is getting nice and hot. Multitasking is the key to cooking. I'm gonna add a little bit of olive oil. There's a little bit of smoke coming. When you see the smoke, you know it's ready to go. So carefully, I'm gonna add, you hear that? That's what you're looking for. I'm gonna carefully add my steak. And you're gonna, once you add it, you're gonna leave it alone. We're gonna probably do this in 2 batches. If you add too many pieces of steak, what happens? The pan gets cold, you crowd it, there's gonna be no color on your steak, and you work so hard for this marinade for you not to achieve greatness. So I'm not gonna add any more than that. We're gonna leave the steak alone. We're not gonna touch the steak until we come back. We're gonna grab a mixing bowl. We're gonna assemble our salad now. First things first, we're gonna cut our bok choy, right? So a bok choy, cleaned, washed, dried. I'm just gonna cut the tops like this. One more time. This I'm gonna save for stir fry. I'm gonna add that to our bowl. So we have our bok choy leaves. We have our mint leaves. I'm leaving these whole because they're small. Any big ones, we're gonna tear them. We have our fresh basil. What's great about this is you can start smelling the aroma, the aromatics, the fragrance of these basils and mint leaves. It's gonna really brighten up this salad. And it's one of my favorite reasons for this salad. Let's go to our steak. By not touching it, leaving it alone, look at that. That's what we're looking for. We're looking for that beautiful caramelization. That Maillard reaction happens when you don't move around too much. That marinade caramelized properly. Look at that. That's phenomenal. I'm gonna move it around a little bit now. Turn our heat to medium because now we want it to cook, but we don't want to overcook it. We have a medium-low heat. We're gonna go back to our salad. Like I said, multitasking is the key. I have some beautiful cherry tomatoes that were cut in half. I'm gonna throw that in. I have 1 mango, ripe, large dice. We have some shredded carrots. And you can see that this salad is all about textures and flavors. So we're gonna season it with a little bit of kosher salt. Here's some fresh ground pepper. We're gonna add our beautiful dressing. And this is the nice spice, sweet dressing. You don't wanna overdress it, because remember, you're gonna have a little bit of liquid coming from the steak. And of course, we have to add our last ingredient, those udon noodles. Steak is ready. I'm turning off the steak. Smells incredible in this kitchen. We're gonna add our noodles. So you're not gonna add too much of the noodles. The noodles are not the main ingredient. The noodles are more of a garnish, just like every other component that you put in, right? So start giving that a nice little mix. Look at that. And now let's grab some steak and just throw in a couple pieces of steak. The best thing about this is the texture, the flavor. You're gonna have hot, cold. This is my wife's favorite salad. I don't even eat salad, and this is my favorite salad. Now, what's left to do? We're gonna plate. You can use a bowl, you can use a plate. I like using a nice little white flat plate so we can build a little bit of height. I'm gonna give it one nice last toss, and we're gonna start building the salad. You're gonna have all your components. You got the different colors in there. Look at that beautiful cube of filet mignon. The mango is my favorite part in this. And then I'm so about texture. So you can see that there's layers of flavors and textures in this dish. Every bite, you're gonna experience something new. You got one more piece of steak there. We're gonna add some fresh peanuts, and that's for some texture, right? And last but not least, we're gonna always clean our plate. Presentation is the key to everything. And I think we did a great job there. That's something I wanna dive right into. And then you get to reward yourself with something that looks this delicious.